Bonjour, hello, I'm Zan. Thanks for having me. I've loved the conference so far. It's been amazing, good content, great people. It's a pleasure to be here, truly. Today I'm going to be talking to you about push notifications and how to make them good for a change. I live and work across the narrow sea in London and work for a company called Pusher. We're a developer tools company. We make APIs that make it easy for app developers on mobile web to add real-time features to their applications. And we have a bunch of SDKs covering mobile, web, everything. Our products range from Channels, which is a pub/sub API that scales massively, so you don't have to worry about infrastructure, just send messages over WebSockets to millions of users concurrently connected. ChatKit, which is a chat SDK, who would have thought, and Beams, which is our actually our push notifications service. But I'm not going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about stuff that annoy me. This, for instance. I appreciate in the back rows you probably can't read this well, so I'll summarize some of the tweets that I've linked in here. So for instance, Wizz Air, the low-cost airline in Europe, they often send these kind of push notifications to people who have it installed. So it says basically 20% off for Wizz Air, discount club members for all flights, all destinations, if you book today. So, and this is actually from my friend Luca, who said how not to use push notifications. It's like he's not a member of the discount club. It's completely irrelevant for him. It's not gonna work. And that's what kind of got me inspired to do something like this. Because yeah, let's face it, most notifications are annoying, and yeah. It ranges from games, and if you play a lot of strategy games, especially on mobile, you get all those timeouts, your chest has been unlocked, and you can build an army now, you can build a building, that kind of stuff. I appreciate it. It's good for them because it kind of allows them to have people more engaged, more using the app more often or game, but it's also rather annoying when something like that pops up at any given time, really. And the same for social, but for social, for instance, it's actually quite interesting if you see that someone has commented on something that you've posted, or liked it, or hated it. But they're completely different. And yeah, again, this kind of stuff. Papa John's, we love pepperoni as much as you do. Try our new dual-layer pepperoni pizza. It makes me quite hungry, actually. But that's spammy. That's just spammy, and it's actually against the guidelines and actually even terms of service for Apple, and I believe also for FCM. Note that most of the tweets that I have in my slides, they're from iOS devices. And I know it's an Android conference, but I've basically scraped Twitter for push notifications hashtags, so most of them are unhappy iOS users. It may mean that Android developers have less of a problem with push notifications, but I have not verified this hypothesis. But yeah, even though they annoy me, this is not a rant. This is I'm really passionate about this topic, and my motivation is actually to help you build stuff that's better, and for me, if I'm using your apps, and for the rest of your users, hopefully that they number in the millions. And it does include some annoyances, as you've seen, but it's mostly here to rethink your relationship with your users, your customers, and how you send them notifications. So what are we going to be talking about? We're going to look at what kind of notifications are we talking about. What are push notifications? Introduce some technologies and tools that are out there in the landscape. And we'll follow up with a look into some psychology aspects. So it's not going to be too far. I could actually do a whole talk about psychology, but I will try to restrain myself. And finally, we're going to look at how to make them great, how to make them enjoyable, useful, and relevant to your users by being nice humans and by using good tech. So yeah, notifications, or push notifications, or push messages, as they are officially called on FCM and previously GCM on Android. And what's really the difference? Push notifications itself is an Apple term, but the industry has kind of picked it up and adopted it, so that's why I'm using here, even though on FCM they call it push messages. Notifications are the things that you display. So any notification that pops up in the tray is technically a notification on Android. And pushes, they start from the server. So, and pushes don't have to have notifications. They can also be silent. For instance, if we're looking at things that are notifications but not pushes, think about media playbacks. So if you listen to Spotify, if you use Audible, or long-running processes. If you've been to the app clinic today, they looked at one of the applications was an app for motorcyclists to kind of prevent them being injured, or and you could start a trip which would start a notification, which is a long-running process, and you can easily access it. That's an example, or maps navigations, things like that. And yeah, I mentioned you could do hidden pushes as well. This is quite relevant actually, because recently, if you've been following the news, you got the Telegram messenger, which is it's a Russian company, but they refused to provide user data to the authorities. So the Russian government have started to block entire ranges of IP addresses for AWS and even Google, I believe. And because Telegram kind of uses AWS infrastructure, they assumed that it's going to bring the service down. But no, they actually used push notifications, silent pushes, without displaying a notification, to inject new IP ranges for their services that they kept deploying. And even though Russia was blocking a massive IP ranges for AWS, Telegram service was still on. That's how powerful it is. Next one, more mundane, probably more of an everyday example is if you have a news app, you can actually send a silent push and say, hey, maybe you could preload some of the data here once the user has Wi-Fi and is on battery, so we don't waste resources while they're actually on the go and might need them. For instance, you can preload stuff before the user starts using the app in the morning, so that on their commute they can get new content without maybe having to be online. So yeah, that's kind of we're going to be talking about, and we're mostly going to be covering push notifications. So stuff that starts on the server and ends up showing up something on your screen. Yeah, in this current day and age, we have a few options at our disposal. We had GCM, which was deprecated, and it's now killed by fire. And its replacement, FCM, Fire-based cloud messaging. On iOS, we have APNS, and we have a bunch of other providers as well. But these are kind of the most relevant ones for our particular purposes. Because yeah, every single platform pretty much supports push notifications. Even browsers do. You've seen those, you visit a random website, a news website, and you have this annoying pop-up saying, hey, this website would like to send you push notifications. No, random website, I will not have your push notifications, sorry. The reality is they're beloved by our friendly friends in marketing, which, since I'm a developer evangelist now, it also includes me. And they're still the only way to really communicate from our side with the apps that are not currently running. How they do that is they use some server-side magic, plus some magic that's kind of on your phone in the terms of services to kind of either poll or even have a socket open. So, but basically, you don't have to worry about how Firebase or APNS, for that matter, they deliver stuff to your phone. You just kind of trigger a push from your server, and your only responsibility as a developer is to kind of make sure that you send the tokens to your server that they can target your device with. So essentially, yeah, every single industry that I can think of can benefit from using them. Shopping is quite popular. Amazon sends you package delivered notifications. Social, I've mentioned it, and so the games. You've seen some travel apps like Wizz Air, for instance, and also tourism. Pretty much everyone probably uses some kind of messenger, so like WhatsApp, Telegram, or Signal, anything really. Delivery apps. Pretty much every industry can make use of this technology. So yeah, they're everywhere. Everyone can use them. Everyone probably should use them to some extent. So yeah, but what happens when we receive something? The psychology I mentioned, I could do an entire hour-long talk about this, but I will not. I only have 4 slides about it. The main point behind this is get people addicted. How they do that? It works on the principle of random reinforcement. So basically, they send you a reward at irregular intervals to get you to kind of use the app more. Because it's been proven by studies, by scientists, that yeah, if you don't know when you get something or you don't expect it and you get something, even if that is a minor push notification, that still kind of tries to get you more addicted. That's why Facebook and Twitter are so damn addictive. Secondly, distractions. Is anyone looking at their phone right now? Do you have any notifications? Probably someone has received something. I've received 2 already, so yeah. They're trying to distract. They're very distractive. They're disrupting your workflow, your concentration, and most of the time they're actually bad. But for the filthy marketeers and product people, I mean, they use fancy words like retention, for instance. What is that really? I mean, it's a buzzword, but it means keeping people to using their app. So yeah, and I'm not the only one who's really annoyed. Someone said, getting push notifications saying this account has 99 notifications. I got 99 problems and this phone is one. At Twitter support. Reality is, a lot of times we send marketing pushes, or your friends in marketing send marketing pushes. If this is like even below 10 a week, so like from 1 to 10, 80% of people will eventually disable notifications. And it just takes a very few in a kind of short time span. And 60% of people will actually churn, so they will stop using your app, they'll uninstall it or just ignore it. And it's really hard to get those users back. And another filthy word my friends in marketing throw around is engagement. So if we're keeping using the app, we want them to kind of, we want the users to kind of use it and be more kind of use more features more often and spend more, basically. And yeah, If I could stop getting push notifications from Facebook about shit I don't give a damn about, that'd be nice. X was live. Y is interested in an event. Do you know Z? I don't care. Actually, in Android, there is a way to stop this. I'm not sure about iOS, but I'm pretty sure there might be something. But yeah, users disable notifications, and you lose the only channel that you have to kind of talk to them when they're not using the app. And that could be really beneficial. So yeah, psychology. Everyone has their motivations. You have your motivations for using the apps, building the apps, and keeping the users. And as a user, my motivation is to get value from your app. So you kind of need to work towards both of those goals. So yeah. Now let's look at how we can make notifications that are actually nice and beneficial, and yeah, take them up to 11. Someone got the Spinal Tap reference. That's good. So first thing you should ask yourself when you're thinking about doing something, should you create a notification? Should you? Should this be an email instead? Emails are a lot easier to ignore and dismiss and archive and send to spam. Sure, I'm less likely to read it, but I'm also less likely to uninstall your app, so probably some trade-offs here. Or like with Google now, I think they're slowly opening the APIs for adding cards for third-party apps. So maybe you could do something like that, or maybe you shouldn't do anything. It's a fairly simple question, really. It's a yes or no, right? But how to get to that answer is oftentimes a bit deeper than that. This ugly thing is from Slack from about 2 years ago. So this was part of their decision logic to whether to send someone a push notification on their mobile device. Yeah, part, because it covers like one scenario. I'll zoom in a little bit, and there is a ton of options here. For instance, the blue ones are user preferences. You don't see any purple ones. The orange ones are user states, and the rest of them are like parsing, so add channel. So based on a bunch of stuff, we end up in either a yes or a no bucket. And yeah, that's science. That's science, but it works for them, and yeah, think about it. Really think whether you should send something. I've mentioned the Slack check for personal preferences, and that's a good thing, because personalization, when it comes to notifications, that's key. Some people like them more than others, and that's good because we're all different, and we should all have an option to choose our own preferences. Whether that's like a dialogue in your own app, whether it's opt-in, opt-out, I think it's something that you should kind of A/B test or check or verify in some other way. But the most important thing is, if I don't like marketing notifications, if I don't like delivery notifications, if I don't like new message notifications for my WhatsApp groups, let me choose. This is a really good one. From New York Times. Wondering why you've been paying more for hummus? Drought in India led to poor chickpea crops, and the shortfall hiked prices in Britain. And someone replied, personalized push notifications will go with go faster stripes. The New York Times really gets me and my questions. Twitter does a very bad job at relaying sarcasm, by the way. So yeah, user preferences, they should go pretty much above everything else. So like, whatever other factors, user preferences are like 80% of the weight, and the rest is just 20. Secondly, not that context, not Android context, but the general context in more common sense, common term. and relevance. So what do I know, what do you know as an app developer about your users' current context? Where are they? Do you have their location? Do you have their time zone? Do you have their preferences as well? Are they interested in something? Are they at work? Are they commuting? Everything that you know about them can help you make the decision. Maybe you only know one of those things. Maybe you don't know any of those things. Or maybe you have information on 5, 6, 7 of those things. And all of that can help you decide whether it's sensible to something. And relevance, obviously. Like, am I addressing a single person or a group of people or every user I have in my app in the entire universe? Think about it. And also, like, for instance, user preferences. I don't think in France you would appreciate if you started receiving push notifications in German language or English. You would prefer it in French. And I couldn't read French, so I would be rather confused if I got a push notification in French. And it's just that. Are things relevant for me? For instance, a negative example from EasyJet, another low-cost airliner, because they just seem to be the worst. Sale ends midnight tonight, up to 20% off 350,000 seats. Book now. Terms and conditions at easyjet.com. And yeah, it's just blatant advertisement. And on the other hand, they do absolutely amazing job at knowing when you're going to fly, if you have your app installed and your tickets on your app. And when you're in the airport, when the gate opens, they actually send you a push saying, hey, here's your ticket, go to gate 29B, and that's just brilliant. That's just brilliant. That's all the difference that a little bit of context, a little bit of relevance makes, because they know where you are. You're probably at the airport. They don't even need to know where you are, and they have your calendar, so they probably know when your flight is due, and some API magic, and you're done, right? So yeah, have I specifically asked for something? Have I set my preferences to say, hey, I want this now? And do I really want it now? Is it really relevant? Can it wait? Is it something that's gonna expire in 30 minutes or 1 hour or 1 day? These are all the questions you can ask and then decide on push notifications. And lastly, can I get this information in other ways? Because often enough, I get a push, I get a text, I get an email. And in case of recruiters, then they would also give me 7 phone calls. So yeah, luckily I don't get push notifications from recruiters. That'd be bad. And yeah, this was relevant yesterday. So join us at the Roubaix Monte for the Makers Party. Cheers. At I think it was like 10 to 7. It was great because I had this start in my app and I got it. I knew where to go. And yeah. So we've covered relevance, we've covered context, we've covered the user preferences, but let's say you've sent something. You've sent something and you've sent it to either 1 to 10 million users. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna wait. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you make it work. What I mean by that is when someone comes to your app from a push notification, yeah, do deep linking right. I've seen a lot of apps that would basically just crash for stupid reasons. I mean, not so stupid, because we all know that state management can be hard and mind-blowing. So yeah, do your testing. Let's really try our best to not crash the apps, and because I mean, if I open the app on my own and it crashes, it's bad. But if you've prodded me to open something and that crashes, then that's like mega bad. So yeah, test a lot, but not in prod. Yeah, that's why we have staging, we have dev, we have test environments. Just use those, and please try not to send ASD hi messages. Or if you do, send fewer and make sure that what you send is actually better for the user. Like this one, for instance. Watch WZ news update. We can snow massive Denver's drug burst Gardner High scheme, and then repeat it like 6 times. I had to crop the image because it would be too small otherwise. Yeah, don't test in prod. Make sure, like, this is especially for news. You know, you're sending stuff. You're sending like breaking news allegedly to millions of people, hundreds of thousands. It's just terrible, terrible, terrible. I know mistakes happen, but double, triple, quadruple check. So yeah, we've covered the whys, we've covered the whats, but let's also cover the hows a little bit. Because we have quite a good, like the resources on Android developers portals are actually really nice, and I recommend you just read through them. There is not many pages. There's like 8 on the developer site and 1 bigger one on the material design guidelines, and that's really all that you need to know for pushes. I've linked them in my notes. So yeah, the most important quote that basically summarizes everything I've said so far is: notification provides short, timely, and relevant information about your app when it's not in use. And yeah, that's essentially what I've been saying to you for the last half hour. So yeah, we have a bunch of styles available to us on Android. So text ones are the basic ones. So just a title, a text, some really short blurb. You can add an image. So if you have a messaging app, you can have like an avatar or a photo of that person that just messaged you. You can add a bit more text to it to kind of expand, or even an image that expands. You can group multiple notifications. So for instance, emails, Gmail has that, Inbox has that, a lot of messaging apps have that, and add actions, so quick reply or do something else really quickly. We now also have dots since Oreo, because they are these small little things that pop on your launcher icons. And lastly, if you wanna do truly bespoke, you can always use something like custom layouts. I mentioned text. This is the number you should remember. Like 37 characters is all you have. So think about what you're saying, because it's not a lot. It's not a lot. It's a newspaper headline, and some devices have more, some devices have fewer. But on both lock screen and the regular notification tray, this is pretty much what you can safely use for phones. There is a bunch of resources for that as well. So this is one from, I think, Urban Airship. They've kind of blogged about all the different ratios and how much space you have on each Android phones. I think they've stopped at Nexus 6P, but pixels are not much. You don't have much more space on pixels. So yeah, I mentioned you can expand them, but use really sparingly, like to show more than what the short text allows you. So if you have an email, you can have a preview. That's great. If you have, I was just talking to Amal that from Deliveroo, how it would be interesting if you have a delivery driver coming to your place, and you could even give them like key code for your building to kind of easily unlock the door and come to your apartment, and that could be put into a big text notification or QR codes. Some airlines do that already, and messages as well. There is a bunch of other options. Even if like you're going to store, you got an item waiting for you to pick up, and maybe tell them, 3rd floor to the right, past the beauty section, you'll find the collection desk. That could work. That would be a great example. In Oreo, we also got channels, which are great because they allow us to fine-tune notification preferences in settings, in Android settings, not app settings. This is completely unrelated to your app settings, but basically you need to register each type of notification for each channel. And if you have multiple types of notifications, I strongly encourage you to use them, because especially like if you have something that's really important, like flight updates, for instance, that's actually Google's example, or marketing notifications, you can actually mute all of that and just do the important flight delays, departures kind of updates. Also, like if you have a game, maybe if someone is actually challenging you to a duel, then you would allow that, and if someone is, if you've received a new chest, then you wouldn't allow that. That would be a good example for me, for instance. WhatsApp does this really interesting because they actually not only use channels, they also group them in the individual channels. So the first section is called chats, the first chats channel. So all the chats notifications are in there, and then in the other one. There is also a critical app alerts one, which I don't know what it is. And yeah, if you click on message notifications, for instance, or group notifications, you can actually fine-tune those because they're grouped like that. So you can say, I don't want any sound for group notifications, but if my wife messaged me, I probably want to know about it. Yeah, you can always set priority for your notifications, which is, yeah, something that's nice to know, something that's not super relevant to, oh shit, you need to drop everything you're doing and worry about this now. But remember, users can disable them, so yeah, don't overdo them. Like, stick to the lower priority if you can, because they're a lot less invasive. People will also be a lot less likely to stop using it. And yeah, lock screen is another good example that we have. You can show notifications. I mean, they will show on lock screen, but if they contain some sensitive content, then you probably should hide them. So messages, emails, they hide by default. But some things, for instance, like when we went to this restaurant a couple of days ago with my wife, she paid with her Starling bank card. Starling is a challenger bank in the UK, and it's basically an app-only bank. And immediately after paying, she got a push saying, hey, you spent £45 in this restaurant. And that was great, because it was confirming that she did pay, which is good, I guess. But also, if she hadn't paid for that, then she'd know to contact the bank immediately and assume that her card was stolen. And that's a big security risk, so we really want to expose that as much as possible. So think about that. And lastly, I've mentioned custom layouts. I'm a big fan of The Guardian Mobile Lab. So The Guardian is a newspaper. They have a mobile lab in New York, and what they do is they explore new ways to deliver information and news stories to people. And they started exploring this concept of a live notification. So they covered the US presidential election in November 16 with this live notification that would update as different districts would get kind of counted, and those little counters, blue and red, would like move, and they even had the updates by district. Hey, the state has voted that. And the same goes for Super Bowl. I think they did it. They did one for Super Bowl. They might have done something for the Olympics, but I'm not sure. But yeah, you can do stuff like that. I did a quick example of this. I built like a crypto tracking notification. It was like a 30 minutes of work, so they're rather simple to do, and in some cases, some people might like them. So yeah, these were the APIs, the tools. To summarize, think about the relevance, think about the context, because they are really important. Utilize the new APIs, because I'm not sure what they're going to announce at I/O, but I imagine there might be something on notification front as well. And follow users' preferences and make them happy, because happy users keep being users, basically, and tell other people about you, and so you have more happy users. Because if you don't delight them, I mean, they'll just go away and delete your app. So yeah, I'm Zan Markan. These were the push notifications that don't suck. You can reach me at my email, zan@pusher.com, or @markan, or check out Pusher at @pusher and pusher.com. We have a bunch of interesting products. If you want to chat to me about it, go ahead. I'm going to be here until the evening, and we're also hiring, actually. So hiring mobile engineers, and actually need an SDK architect, which is quite interesting. So if you want to check out what we do, come talk to me, check our jobs page. And yeah, that was it. Any questions? That's good. Let's go listen to chat and Roman. I'll tweet about the slides in a bit when I upload them.